You've made your mark in creating original and innovative interactive media for many different platforms, which is really awesome. And as displayed by your Emmys, congratulations on all that and your nominations. Um, Looking back on these past 3 seasons, what have you learned from running this show that has advanced your craft for the next project to come?
Um, I think the general thing, what I've learned is that it's the more you build the audience in, the more exciting it is for both you and them. So I think you see if you really were to analyze the 3 seasons, we get progressively more and more crazy, innovative, interactive. Like we just allow the audience to do more things as the episode as the show has matured, and this season being what it is now with the world buildings and the character creations, along with the polls that are massively consequential. Now it's just at another level, and I don't think we should ever go back from that. At least not in this
Mhm.
show. And my future work, I'm going to push for that, unless they say don't do that. Like, the partners say don't do that, then fine, that's okay. But I do think giving that power to the audience makes them feel more invested than they've ever been in storytelling.
Leading into my next question, of course, this season in particular, the audience has control over so many different aspects of the world storytelling tone, the score, things like that, more so than in previous seasons of the show. Does the increased control of the audience make you nervous at all, or are you more excited about where they may take, each decision?
Very excited, actually. Very excited. I I get asked the nervous question all the time,
Hmm.
and because I think we as storytellers have grown up, and story consumers too, have grown up in this idea of like, you tell a story or I tell a story, and you consume the story, and you either like it or you don't, or whatever. Like that's it's a one-way street there, and maybe the only two ways that you just tell me if you liked it or not. But having it be this kind of conversation where it's collaborative, it enriches it so much. And no, I'm not scared of it. I mean, we're coming up, which, assuming this is whenever this is posted, but like we're about to present an event where the audience can literally vote a character away. Like they can eliminate a cast member if they so choose to. And that's happening like next week. So
Wow.
it's crazy. It's like we're gonna give them that power, and it's like, I'm like just telling them, yeah, this is what's gonna happen. Is it scary? Sure, it's scary. Are we playing both contingencies? Sure. And but that's storytelling. That's consequence, right? Like if you do something wrong, you pay the consequences, and like that's what we're trying to do in our stories.
That's so awesome, and I'm so excited for that event. I have yet to watch one of the episodes live,
Sure.
so I will make sure that I am there for that one in particular because I've really enjoyed watching this show. So you mentioned in an interview before that the show is mostly scripted. Even with the audience involvement, that there is still a lot of pre-written dialogue and rehearsing more so than just jumping to the pre-recorded logs.
Mhm.
Has that at all changed with the audience now choosing the personalities of some of the new cast members and building them from scratch? Like how much say did you have in characters like Xander or Asher?
Um, so Xander was, played by Dante, was created by the audience. So that one was the only control we had, was that I wanted to make sure, and I told Dante this, is that when you create this character, I want you to be comfortable with everything that's on the board. So if there's 4 poll options, you got to be comfortable with all 4 poll options. We just don't know which one they're going to pick. And it was always this vetting process, and that's what we do throughout the show with any of our choices that we give the audience. We do not give them, we do not put a poll choice on a poll, without us being accepting of all the answers.
Mhm.
So if they're named this, if they do this, if it's this personality trait, we accept that. We accept all the choices, and whatever one wins wins. So that part is just kind of, that's our control. Okay, like it's the analogy I say is that if you say, hey Bernie, tell me what I should do today, anything's game, and I say go jump off the balcony, you're not going to do that because you're a sane person. Like presumably, right? Or you're
Yeah.
if I say, go, commit harm on someone, you're not going to do that because of the repercussions of the law. So our characters are like that too, and our storytellers like that. So we have boundaries of what we're willing to do, but we're very open-minded to those boundaries. If I say, hey, you should work out today, that may be something you do because that sounds like actually a good idea. So it's presumably good for you. And that's what we try to present within our stories. And so with these things like the personalities, as you're alluding to, like when the audience picks Lilith's personalities or Xander's personalities, that does throw a lot of wrenches into our system. But we are nimble enough because we aren't so far ahead in the story. Like we've only written this week's episode. Like we haven't written next week's episode. We are in that process of doing that now. So then there are things that are happening at the end of this week's episode that determine what happens next week's episode. So even though they're writing this episode for next week, there's things that they can't write. And then I say, like, you have to hold on this scene until this episode plays. And then at that point, you can commit to that scene because different characters will be in there. They'll say different things. They're going to refer to events that are determined into this week's episode. And that makes it incredibly challenging, but we love it. I mean, I'll say it is a bit masochistic, but it's a rush. So.
Oh, well, that's awesome. So like in this season in particular, with the character of the AI, Sophie Lin, now Lilith, how far back was that decision made to bring back Tiffany Chu as Lilith?
I mean, that was pretty early in our decision. So one thing we try to do, and we've done this 99% of the time. I'll say 99% because there was a time where we weren't able to do it because of a cast availability. Anytime the audience makes a decision, we say that's it. Like there are no reverting that. You have to keep it. So when at the end of season 2, when the audience votes to eliminate Sophie, to kill her, we're like, okay, we killed her. And there are a lot of writers and storytellers. We go like, well, you could just resurrect her, like they do. Superman died and he resurrected him. Like you could, there's a billion ways to do this. And like, no. The audience made this choice. We're going to respect the audience choice, and that is what's going to happen. And so if you're going to bring Tiffany back, she cannot play Sophie again. She has to play a different being, and that just falls right into the story. Tiffany is obviously great. We love working with her. She wanted to do it, so it all made sense. It's just so much easier to work with someone who knows the format very well. We know what she can do live. We know what she does really well. She plays a robot extremely, extremely well. One thing I love to say about her abilities is that she's very, very deliberate in all her moves. And versus say, you and I have, like most humans have kind of nuanced, like reflex things like fidgeting and stuff like that. A robot technically wouldn't do that. A robot would make sure every move that the being makes, like blinking even, or looking this way, or fidgeting or biting my nails, whatever, that's all deliberate. And so she's really good at that control, and that makes it very eerie. And that's why, one of the reasons why I think she's so good in the show.
Yes. Yeah, she is absolutely fantastic. Yeah, and then just like have to commend your cast and casting department, because the casting across the board with the new characters, the veteran co-stars, like everyone is very awesome, like in the show. So like really great job with the casting.
Thank you. I'll pass that along.
Yeah. So another thing I personally love about the show is its discussion of human decency, morality, philosophy. Like those are things that just personally interest me. Was there anything that you learned from the topics addressed in the show that you have carried into your personal life?
Yeah, season 1, we talked a lot. We did a lot about philosophy. And the thing that we explored a lot in season 1 was the hypocrisy of humanity. There are things that we bend over backwards to try to save a puppy, but we're like eating beef every meal. So like things like that. I'm not saying that you have to be that, but I'm just saying that's a very clear example of that. We are willing to kill insects, but we can't kill humans, even though whatever reason. Like you're being very binary about that. And so it's just kind of looking at the world as a greater lens through empathy was something that, because the robot was trying to figure that out too, is trying to understand those complexities, because the world is not black and white. The world is not good and evil. The world is gray. There are heroes, there are villains, and that's the kind of perspective I look at it. Even though, yes, I want to be righteous. Yes, I try to be as honorable as I can with results, but I also try to win and try to be a successful show. So there is that balance. I mean, I did turn vegan over the course of the series, so maybe that was a byproduct of that, where I felt hypocritical, just personally. I'm not saying you have to be vegan or anybody watching or
I get
listening.
it. I get
Yeah,
it.
but I turned vegan because I felt so hypocritical to my belief of being an environmentalist, but like, you're trying to recycle and save water and everything, but I'm eating chickens and eating cows every day,
Mhm.
and knowing the devastation that causes. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna just cut that out. And so that is probably the biggest single personal event that I've changed over the course of the series. And I would give the show the credit for instilling that on me.
So I know as a showrunner and director, things probably get pretty stressful. Do you have a particular method or like a song you listen to that helps you de-stress? Like we need to take a step back and just take a chill pill.
Particularly method. So the method I use to de-stress is like garden. That's
Mm.
that is my zen. It is like okay, I'm just going to look at my plants and fiddle with them, or sit amongst them and read by them, or whatever. Like, so that is my zen. Music wise, it really depends. I think when I'm doing something not so uh, like writer creative, like
Mhm.
if I'm not writing dialogue, I'm not reading dialogue, then I will listen to EDM, just because it just keeps energy up. Also, I like it, of course. And then what it depends on what I'm writing. So artificial, which is really great about this year, is that this year there's the live score music technology, which has this massively vast theme of music, and I can just listen to that music and just write to that music for the
Mhm.
show. And so then I feel like I'm very aligned to like, all right, if I'm writing this dialogue to this music, which will probably be played, or something like it will probably be played, depending on what the audience picks, we'll do a good job. And so it zones me into the show very well.
Mhm.
But that's currently the process. I mean, it's crazy because the show runs weekly. I have not had a non-working Saturday. And by working, I mean proofreading and or writing 50 pages, 70 pages,
Uh-huh.
or whatever in a day, like since the beginning of the season, because we were rolling weekly. And even though there are flashbacks and there are kind of off weeks with the world building, those off weeks are flashback shoot weeks. So
Yeah.
on average, we are writing and shooting 50 new pages, if not more, per week.
My final question, very, very personal. If you had the means and the know-how and the tools, would you yourself create an AI similar to Sophie Lin slash Lilith? And if so, what would be the main objective for that AI?
Interesting. Like, would I create them? I mean, if I guess I could, I would. I don't really have a. I'm not in this whole pro or like apocalypse AI, sci-fi world, or not, or pro AI. It's going to change. It's going to be better the world. Kind of balance that we're in right now.
Mhm.
And that's purposely for the shows. I try to straddle the middle. That I am. I understand everybody watched Terminator 2 growing up in the Matrix and everything, and I understand that, and I understand that's a real fear. And then I also see there's a contingent of AI people that I've met, scientists much smarter than I am, who are just all pro, like, we're doing it for good reasons, and we are not going to let it fall into that world. Okay,
Mhm.
so there's that balance there. The purpose of the being, interesting. Yeah, I've never been asked this question before. So, I mean, something really stupid would be just well, not really stupid. It's more like why do something so simple? It's just like, hey, have it like, clean your house and be your friend. But
Mhm.
that's not very interesting to me.
Mhm.
I think it's like can you convert? Can you like guide that thing almost like what they did with try to do with Sophie, where you're not saying necessarily say become human, but almost like blend in to society. And I do think that with AI, that is kind of where we are going. So as I've talked to, again, many AI people who actually do real AI, like this is what
Mhm.
they've said so far. They've said that in the humanoid AI area, the making of physical robotic beings, they're still pretty far from that being, obviously human or not. Like it's the robot Sophia is obviously human, obviously not human. The Boston Dynamics robots, though looking like they can jump and run and everything, obviously are not human. So no one is doubting that those are robots. They're just artificial humans. But in the virtual area with like, deep fake technology and voice modulation and those and virtual characters, they are really, really close. And so I find that to be really fascinating because of my favorite quote from any AI property so far that I've seen is actually from Westworld. And it's a quote where they go, if you can't tell it's not real, does it matter? And I find that to be just, yeah, if you can't tell it's not real, does it matter? I'm not saying I agree with that. I'm not saying I don't disagree with that. But I find that to be a very fascinating point of view as a storyteller, because as a storyteller, the thing that I connect most is like to like a magician. So what I want you to feel is like, I want you to make you feel like you want to believe it's real. Like I want you to believe that I'm cutting the girl in half, or I'm like, you know, pulling the rabbit out of my hat or whatever. Like I want you to feel that. And that's what I feel the kind of humanoid, virtual human technology is trying to get you to do, where you want to believe it's real and you're interacting with it. And that's the area that fascinates me as a storyteller.
Awesome. Great answer. Yeah, no, that's all I have on my end. It was
Great.
so awesome talking to you. I've been loving watching the show, and I'll definitely be tuning in for the next week's episode and this week's episode. Hopefully to get to catch that live audience experience, because there's nothing like it.
There's nothing like it. There's nothing like it, man.
I'm so excited. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me and talk about the show.
You're welcome,
and I'm excited for more people to discover it and experience it and for it to continue. So thank you so much. Have a great day.
Have a great day.